You're welcome back, and this is TV3 New Day. It is Thursday morning, a rainy morning, so I hope that you're safe wherever you are. There's heavy traffic in town as well, and so if you have to leave home, make sure that you check and be sure if you can use an alternative route. But this morning, of course, since it's Thursday morning, the women are seated. We're going to have a conversation, and earlier we gave you a clue as to what to expect on the big issues this morning. If we can just quickly project the flyer again, and of course we're talking about the deployment of troops to Niger, an announcement that has been made by ECOWAS, and they've asked all other ECOWAS countries to prepare to deploy some of these troops. So stand by their men, so that when it's time to deploy the troops, they will head into Niger and restore it to democratic rule. A lot of questions have been asked about that. And yesterday, Honorable Ken Ejipong was here for an exclusive with Roland Walker. He was asked about this, and we'll play that tape for you to listen. But again, security experts are warning that this could be dire for our economy. We'll take a look at that shortly. And also, yes, the comments are raging. A lot of people are not too happy about the 10% tax on betting. But would it really deter the youth from betting? We'll take a look at that as well. Joining us this morning, we have Lerato Musa Saka. She is a member of the NPP communications team, and she joins us here. Good morning.
Good morning, Bella.
Where have you been, first of all, Hajia? Where have you been?
I've been around.
You've been around?
Yeah.
You went for Hajj as well?
I went for Hajj.
How was that?
Came back. It was quite an experience.
Will this be the first?
Yes, this is my first.
Okay,
yes.
but you're not only entitled to one trip, right? You can always go if you want to.
One is recommended, but you can do as many as you have, but at least in your lifetime, if you can afford, make one.
Yeah, this must have been memorable then.
It is.
Yeah.
Quite humbling.
Okay.
And brings you to reality with what you've been taught over the years. You know, for us, you pray facing the Kaaba. So you go to Makkah and you are face to face with the Kaaba. That's the black stone.
Okay.
And I mean, it has this humbling effect, and it really brings reality to life.
Yeah.
I mean, we are just mere mortals. I mean, look, there's nothing like a superhuman. Because at a point, one of the rituals, you have to spend the night in an open space. You don't even know who is lying by you. Could be anybody in this world. You know, so I mean, it's a way of connecting with our Maker, and also knowing that, I mean, these things we believe in are real, and we need to take them serious as much as possible.
And that means you have a change of heart as well, so you won't be defending the defenseless in most cases, right? We'll speak truth to power.
I've had this comment come up, but Bella, you've hosted me on this show a couple of times, and you know how I deal with my issues. I come here as a member of the NPP and by extension part of the government. You know, we come and speak to issues within a context. I can't come and sit here and give information I'm not privy to.
Okay.
I can't come here and sit here and give information that is not government's position. So when we come and sit here, we come here to inform from the government.
And to defend the government, even when it's unpopular.
I don't call it defense.
What do you call it?
You take policies with the best of intentions.
Okay.
And the best way to make sure they succeed, especially when you have the kind of opposition we have these days, who don't see anything positive in whatever government does.
But it's not just opposition, it's Ghanaians as well. And they say that what? The voice of the people is the voice of God. If they're not happy with something and you defend it.
I think what Ghanaians generally are saying is make our lives better. And I think it's a fundamental right of every citizen.
Has your government done that?
Bella, we find ourselves in very challenging times for obvious reasons. And I think the government, led by His Excellency the President, has done the best that can be done within the situation.
I see. Well, let's take a look at our first story for today. And yes, an ECOWAS meeting with some military heads from all the ECOWAS states have started meeting here in Accra to, of course, decide on how to go about the deployment of troops into Niger. I mean, an ultimatum was given to the military that conducted the coup in Niger. Of course, it's passed. They did not return the country to constitutional rule, and so now there's a need like ECOWAS is saying, for them to deploy the troops. But there are concerns about it. A lot of Ghanaians are raising eyebrows about it. Do we have enough men? Do we have the funds for it? And will this also not have repercussions on other Ghanaians living in Niger and on our economy in general? Yesterday, the chairman of the Security Committee in Parliament was here, Honorable Ken Ejipong, and this is what he had to say when Roland posed the question to him as to whether it was necessary for us to deploy troops. Take a look.
This country is very, very important. If we make a mistake and we allow coup d'etats all over West Africa, tomorrow it will be me and you. And the first thing, they'll dissolve, the word is dissolve parliament. They will arrest journalists. Check all the coups. You see, so the security of this country is very, very important. And no matter the amount of money, prevention is better than cure. Prevention will not cost you as much as you are curing it.
There's Boko. We never quell the insecurity there. We're going to Niger.
You see, we have obligation as ECOWAS members, and you cannot run away from it. We have obligation because, in fact, the second most important country in West Africa is Ghana. I've been an ECOWAS member before. So it's an obligation. And this, yesterday, I posed the question and answered it myself. Why is it that Burkina, Guinea, and Mali, we didn't go there, and now we are going to Niger?
Okay.
Again, I gave a solution to it that this should serve as a deterrent because it's becoming rampant. Coup d'etat is becoming rampant in ECOWAS. So we should use Niger to serve as a deterrent that anybody who tries again, ECOWAS will come after him.
Well, he says that we have an obligation to ECOWAS, but is ECOWAS's decision sacrosanct? When you look at the UN, you look at the AU, and of course, all the other decision makers who have to also okay or veto this authority. Take a look at what Colonel Festus Aboagye had to say.
Ghana is a member of the African Union. Ghana is a member of the United Nations. In terms of international law, within the framework of subsidiarity, the responsibility for the maintenance of global peace and security rests with the Security Council. So an ECOWAS decision per se is not the ultimate decision. And that's why in the communique of the 10th of August, ECOWAS requested the African Union and the UN to endorse its decision. On Monday, the information out there is that when the AU Peace and Security Council met, they could not arrive at a consensus. They were divided. In other words, Africa is not fully in coordination. And that is the only reason why the PSC did not arrive at a consensus. And if we go by international law, and AU does not endorse the ECOWAS decision, then the legality and the legitimacy of that decision suffers. Then we'll go to the Security Council, more pertinently, because the intervention in Niger falls squarely within Chapter 7 of the United Nations Charter. Regional arrangements. But regional arrangements need to get the sanction of the UN under Chapter 7 for anything that we call the use of force. And the Niger intervention is to use force to restore democracy. My calculation is that Russia will veto any proposition for the UN resolution that says that it endorses the ECOWAS decision. China may abstain. Then we come to the A3, which is Ghana, that's the Africa 3 on the Council, Ghana, Mozambique, and Gabon. Granted that Ghana votes for it, it's not very likely that Gabon and Mozambique will vote. In other words, all the calculations are that the 9 that must vote for this resolution in the UN Council may not pertain or may not obtain.
And that's Colonel retired Festus Abuaji. He says that ECOWAS does not have the final authority per se. Well, we're expecting Anaya Chimpim Jantua, the General Secretary for the CPP, and Gabriela, who's a member, Gabriela Tete, who's a member of the NDC communications team. We're expecting them to join us this morning. But again, Lerato is in the studios with us, and we'll start with her. Lerato, yes. So you've heard what Colonel retired has said, that ECOWAS doesn't have the final authority. We still need the sanction of the AU and the UN Peace and Security Council before we can go ahead and deploy troops. Yes,
Bella, coups in any shape or form should be condemned in all certain terms. I mean, using force in these days of heightened democracy is not something that anybody should encourage. I mean, as we said, we know there are issues in Burkina, there are issues in Mali, Guinea, and even around 2011, you saw what happened in the Gambia. So the continent has been bedeviled with most of these things, and there needs to be a stop to it. We need to pull the brakes at a point. Is sending troops the best option? I doubt.
You doubt it?
I doubt it. Because for the others that we witnessed, they were like coups that were not really supported by citizens. But when you listen to the narratives, when you listen to the reports in Niger, and this is no way affirming or endorsing a coup. But I think yesterday there was one news item on your network that one of the people said were about 90% of the citizens in Niger supporting the coup. There have also been reports about citizens encouraging others to volunteer to support the military. But it still comes to ECOWAS, which is made up of heads of states within the sub-region with their security chiefs. There's a meeting here, and from the last communique that was released from the meeting in Abuja by ECOWAS, there were lots of options that were outlined, including diplomacy and engagements. So with this meeting that is coming on with security chiefs, I mean in 2011, when ECOWAS agreed and sanctioned military intervention in Gambia, military men were positioned at the various borders. The security chiefs are meeting today. These are people who have been appointed or, for lack of a better description, employed and paid by citizens to protect our borders, both air, land, and sea. So if they are meeting today and tomorrow to really think through this thoroughly, I think we should also wait for them to come up with what the strategy is. But I still think at this point, negotiations, looking at the dynamics of it, negotiations should be, and I think taking troops or swarming the place immediately, I think should be the last resort.
But many people have criticized ECOWAS for a number of reasons, one of them being the fact that they actually even issued that ultimatum for them to return to constitutional rule before they tried to even talk about diplomacy and trying to engage them so they can restore it. And that has been one angle of it. Now, the other angle is that why did ECOWAS sit until this point? There have been issues of unrest in a lot of these countries because of alleged corruption or corruption in most cases, and also the fact that some of these leaders, unfortunately, are not governing the people well. So economic-wise, things are really tough for the people. ECOWAS never really steps into it, tries to fix the problem, and then all of a sudden when there's a coup, that is when they think they should flex their muscles, especially with leaders, a part of ECOWAS, who have also re-engineered their constitution to extend their term in office to the detriment of its own people.
Don't let us lose sight of the fact that as a sub-regional body, there are also countries, right, within their own rights. They can decide to pull out of ECOWAS or stay in, right? So country-specific issues come in. I don't think we can emphatically say that ECOWAS hasn't done anything.
Before the coup?
I don't think we can say that. They've had meetings, we've seen communiques on issues. No, they don't only meet when there are coups. So I think that saying ECOWAS hasn't done nothing or hasn't done anything is, I don't think is a fair statement to make.
ECOWAS was heavily criticized when the coup in Guinea happened. And even the citizens were saying that we had been complaining about the state of the economy and the fact that we're not happy with the leadership. Nobody did anything about it until the coup happened. And this has been recurrent in the other countries as well. They all say that we're not too happy with the situation. ECOWAS never really steps in, and then when there's a coup, that is when they want to jump in and issue orders here and there. And so if you say that you don't think ECOWAS has not done anything about it, the citizens have complained that you've not done anything as far as we're concerned.
Bella, like I said, these are countries within their rights. You don't just get up and invade someone's country.
Of course. Just
because complaints are coming. But I still insist that we can't say ECOWAS hasn't done anything. The engagements they have when they meet, the interventions and the administrative duties that the authority itself also undertakes, all inure to the development of. We may not have gotten to where we want to get to, but as for criticizing our leaders, I think we did. As in Africa, we do it better than any other continent, if I may. At least I'm African, so I hear it every day. We get up every morning, and people even blame the president, even when they go to make a choice of paying exorbitant prices for basic services. They blame the president of the republic, who had no hand in the decision that the person took. So when it comes to these things, and we criticize our leaders all the time, but I mean, let's also do some deep reflection as Africans.
Why is there a need for that?
We criticize our presidents, we criticize our leaders. When we get the opportunity, do we do different? We also need to also look at how, as collectively, governance or a government or a state is not just made up of people who lead. Leadership, good leadership, effective leadership, efficient leadership is not negotiable. But does the buck stop with only the leader? Do we only criticize? Do we give solutions to it? And I must also say that with all that is going on, when you listen to the experts, you listen to some, you know, this person know their stuff. You listen to some, you know, they are also just saying some, if I should put it that way. So as for criticism and people thinking that the approach being used is wrong, I mean, everybody is entitled to it. But I just think that when we elect leaders, when we put people at the helm of affairs, let's also give them the room to take the best decisions in our interest. You don't put people in leadership positions and tie their hands.
But how long do we have to wait for them to make the decisions? And I'll use the current president of Ghana as an example. We're in the 7th year of his governance. Do you think that he's taking decisions that are near to our benefit? Because constantly Ghanaians have complained about literally everything. The economy is in shambles at the moment. We had to go to the IMF to go and borrow money. And you look at the Bank of Ghana report about losses that they have made. And that's almost 2 times the amount we're going to IMF to collect. And so if the president keeps saying, Yetisikaso, Naso Comedy, and we come into that space where he is leading, and we're not seeing the results of all the things that he said when he was in opposition. And you say, what, we shouldn't just criticize them?
What decision? If you can give me 1 or 2 decisions you think the president has taken.
With regards to what?
No, any.
Well, we've gone to IMF. Clearly, even his own finance minister said we shouldn't go to IMF. even before the IMF, a lot of finance experts had said that we were in a position where we are going straight into the doldrums. So we need to do something about this. Nobody did anything. Then we had to go to IMF. That is a clear example.
Bella, I have a challenge with you, your constant repetition of nobody did anything. Bella, we took, and this was not the first time the MPP has brought in a government. The first time the MPP brought a government was in 2001 through the 2000 elections. That was President Kufuor. President Kufuor had to declare HIPC because of the situation we found ourselves in. Fast track to 2007, 2008. Right. We're low middle income, at least from the indices and the other parameters that are used to measure an economy. We took an economy in 2016. Fast forward. That was with the IMF.
And you took us back to the IMF.
Extended the program and started growing the economy. I'm sure you are aware that we grew averagely at the end of the 2019-2020, averagely 7-point-something%. Then we came to 2020. March 2020 was when we were hit by COVID. Nobody knew the end to COVID. But if you remember, the president took a decision
Which
to
was?
protect lives as against the economy. Hitherto, look, the only place you find sanitizers then were in hospitals and clinics. Nose masks were virtually for surgeons and other people. All these hygiene protocols and all that. Veronica buckets were seen at health centers and clinics and facilities that, the other place you'd have seen it is those days that teachers used to generally use chalk. So there's one, is it a class prefect or someone fetches water, is put in front of the class.
So those were some of the best decisions that you're saying the president made?
Bella.
Well,
please, I'm building a point.
Okay, carry on.
You get it. So then all these things become a mainstream thing.
We don't see the
Certain
Veronica buckets
decisions-
much anymore.
The very certain decisions have to be made. Right. 2020, even when economies were shrinking, at least we grew marginally by some 0.4%. 2020. Look, our compatriots and people will say, oh, don't talk about COVID, don't talk about Ukraine. But fundamentally, those were external shocks. We had our internal issues. But it was gradually, it was 2017, 2018, 2019, going up. Our growth was quite impressive. In 2021, 2022. In 2021, when our budget was read, the main source of income or revenue was e-levy.
Which Ghanaians didn't want to pay. It backfired. You didn't even make the money that you wanted to make.
Was e-levy.
You didn't make the money you wanted to make.
It was fought strongly. That budget was what? Passed virtually mid-year, 2022. So already your revenue mobilization projections have gone. Reviews have been made to e-levy and all that, but it's never recovered from that fight. It was
Because
given.
Ghanaians said they didn't want it.
Where
Did you
do
listen
go?
to Ghanaians?
Of course. Did you what?
Did you listen to Ghanaians?
When it was, at least, look, probably stakeholder consultation wasn't deep enough. But after that, when the agitation started coming, we had government officials move from region to region to do the sensitization. But the whole propaganda against it had already sunk in.
But that's what I'm saying.
People
That
are
so
against
all
it,
these decisions
you
that
know.
have been made, and there have been complaints
But that doesn't necessarily.
if we don't take
No,
care with
that
the way
doesn't
that the NPP is
necessarily.
running the
That
government,
doesn't
there could be a coup.
necessarily.
We're not calling for it. We condemn it in all
Bella,
on certain terms.
anybody-
But
look,
these are clear
anybody-
signs of what has happened
anybody who
in
sits
these
in
other
Ghana,
African countries, which is why there's
Anybody
coup
who
there.
sits in Ghana in the comfort of their homes and say there could be a coup or coup is the only way out.
Nobody has said coup is the only way out. They have said that
yes.
if you constantly govern the way you are governing at the moment, then you are making room for a coup.
What is the provision for changing governments if you think a government is not doing what they're doing? Which I strongly believe. Look, when government is not doing what government is doing, we go to the polls every 4 years to re-elect or maintain people in power. So as for the bit about coups and all that, I think people should be... I can't say I've seen a coup before. But at least, if I haven't heard from anybody, I've heard from my parents. My mom told me a story of how she was moving from Kumasi to Min and was stopped at the border and she was dealt with mercilessly. Her only crime was, well, my mom is quite fair. Anybody who knows my mom, she's quite fair. Her only crime was looking like, apparently, a minister's wife. She was dealt with brutally. So coups, if we haven't seen anything, we've seen what is happening in our neighboring countries. We've seen what is happening in Niger now. So I don't think coups are anything to go by or even talk about when it comes to these things.
Okay, well...
But all these decisions that have been taken gradually, I mean, we are not there yet. We are not. It's still difficult. But the decisions that are being taken gradually, we'll get there.
All right. Well, Nanaya Chimpim-Jantwa from the CPP, she's the General Secretary. She's joined us this morning. Good morning to you.
Good morning, Bella. I've had
There
the
was
most
some traffic.
the most terrible morning.
What happened?
From 37 to here, I used 45 minutes.
Wow. Because of the
45.
rain.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Yes, 45.
It's not the rain?
It's not the rain.
Because even before...
Down here, that is blocking the traffic.
Yes, but
Probably.
I
Getting
believe
choked there too.
the police people on the why do they direct traffic when the traffic lights are working? The woman standing at Christ the King, she's
Five
confused.
vehicles.
Yes.
Oh.
Yes, she's confused. No, seriously, because I don't see why the police should direct traffic when the traffic lights are working. They should only be there when the traffic lights are not working.
No, but it's choked here, so whatever be the case, she still has to manage the
Yeah.
No, but
so
it is-
those other vehicles can have.
The bell
Ease
is
of
from
way.
the 37. The
I
man
was
there.
also in it.
Yes,
All the
man
way.
there doesn't know what
So,
he's doing.
so both of you, that's the reason why you couldn't make it on
Yes,
time.
yes.
Oh,
Totally understand. Well, they did mention to us...
I knows that.
No, but they did mention to us that they were stuck in traffic very close to...
45
very
minutes.
close to
I was
Adisa
not
Way.
from 37 to this
We're sorry about that.
I can
We're sorry about
understand,
that.
but
We hope it gets better. Gabby, she said she doesn't believe you. But anyway, you're also welcome.
Why?
I hope you're well. It's been a while we saw you in the studios. But maybe I'll just jump on to Nanaya because we're talking about the deployments or maybe eventually the deployment of military men to Niger
To do what?
to restore constitutional rule. And there have been questions about it. But yesterday, Honorable Kennedy Japan said that we owe our allegiance, of course, we're obligated by the fact that we are part of ECOWAS to go in there and restore. We're not going to war. Is that what it is?
How are you
if
going
we
to,
go into Niger, is that war?
Please, what are you going to do there?
You're going to confront somebody.
Please, good morning to your viewers and good morning to everybody. Good morning to my CPP comrades and good morning to Ghanaians.
You greet your friend.
Latif. Good morning. Laura just reminded me. Good morning,
Because you've been
Abdullah.
constant.
Yeah, he's my very good friend. Good morning to Abdul Latif Dan, MP for Ablekuma Central. And I'd also want to appreciate, I'll come to that one later. A confrontation is what? If I have an altercation with you, is it peace? It's not peace. So if they are not going to fight, why are they taking military men? The military is supposed to go to war and go to battle. So it is a battle.
They do peacekeeping too.
Peacekeeping. So this one, there's no war there. Fundamentally, my dear, the governments of the ECOWAS, the presidents, they should start talking to their peers. When they meet, they should talk to them and make sure that they do the right thing. That is fundamental. In Guinea, what happened? The commander of the special forces was the one who staged the coup.
Yeah.
Do you get me? Because the president at the time wanted to change the constitution to stay in power. If it hadn't been for the fact that Ivory Coast, Abidjan, they were fed up with all the crisis. Look at what Alassane Ouattara also did.
Yeah.
Do you get it? And now he's in power.
Yeah.
So when these things happen, what do you expect? Number two, we need to look at what is behind the French-speaking countries, the coup d'etats. It is the assimilation of France that they are rejecting. That's this neo-colonialism that is happening there. That all their resources is being managed by France. Let's call a spade a spade. That is the bottom line. It's got nothing to do with how good the economy is. It's the fact that you have been subjugated for far too long and we don't want you to dictate to us again. It is about France. And I do not know why ECOWAS wants to start a third world war on the soil of Africa. Because the moment you go in there, I heard the Wagner group is in Burkina.
Yeah.
So if the Wagner group is in Burkina, it means that Russia is interested. Immediately Russia is interested. The US would also want to be part of it. Because Russia is there, then it becomes a fight of turf. On an African soil, you want to start third world war. Why? Africa is a peaceful continent. You want to start third world war because your people are not doing right.
But that is why there's an election. So allow the person that you're not happy with to be booted out of office the right way.
I am telling you that, have you been to French-speaking countries? For some reason, France has been able to subjugate them to the extent that when it comes to knowing what is going on, I don't want to say literacy or knowledge, but the way they have been cultured.
They even make annual payments.
They make, I'm telling you, which annual payments can. You see, Africa, ECOWAS wanted to do ECO. Because of French-speaking West Africa, we could not do it. We want to trade amongst ourselves. Do you get me? Because, for instance, Nigeria is a very big market. Granted that the whole of Africa, or even starting from West Africa, is trading and using Nigeria as the key point of trade, we needn't go anywhere else. And if you have a common currency like the euro, and exactly what Kwame Nkrumah was talking about when he talked about the OAU. If you look at the model of the EU, it is the model of the AU that Kwame Nkrumah put forth. But because of these French-speaking countries, we can move forward. Because France has assimilated so much that everything is France. Their currency is CFA. Do you get me? So the bottom line is what these leaders should look at. Please, they shouldn't go and start a war. We, especially in Ghana here, I've heard the majors or the commanders are meeting today, whatever their titles are. We have very porous borders. And at the end of the day, the women are going to suffer. If we start getting infiltrators coming through as a form of maybe retaliation or resistance, and we cannot even protect our own porous borders, what is going to happen? We are going to have a security issue on our hands. Because already, we are in dire straits. The economy is not working. Nothing is working. Laratu is saying that we should take a gradualist approach. But the point is that when they were coming to power in 2016, they didn't talk about the gradualist approach. They said that they are going to do it immediately. I thought that from Hajj, Laratu will repent. But she's back, defending.
She said she has repented.
She has repented.
This tangent you're going.
Do you get me? And the point is that we need to also find out what is behind this. Is there some promise of cash for the countries? No, for the countries who are going to be involved in this invasion. This is an invasion.
But we will have to spend, because if we're deploying military men, then we're investing money.
I'm saying that we say we don't have money. We have a deficit. Bank of Ghana is in crisis. Our main bank, the central bank. So where are we going to get money to fund this operation? Is Tinubu going to do it alone as chairman of ECOWAS? Where are we going to get money? How do you sit in your countries and you say that you are going to invade somebody else's country, a country that is sovereign and independent? Because there is a coup d'etat. You see, coup d'etats are done when there is support from the citizenry. They succeed when there is support from the citizenry. You can never have a coup d'etat succeed if the citizenry don't want it. Do you get me? So then if you enter in there, how are you going to depose? Because immediately you are going to fight with the army of Niger. Because it's the army of Niger that is in power. So you can't tell me you are not going to fight. You are going to fight the army of Niger. How can you just enter the country and say that you are going to, without a fight from them?
And they have more experience. They've been fighting insurgency since 2012.
I am telling you that those people, they know what they are doing. They are my people. My great-grandfather comes from Niger.
Oh, so you're half Nigerian?
Yes, I'm half Nigerian.
Oh, okay.
Do you get me? So those people, they are resilient. I have cousins that they are resilient. So you can't just go and enter and say that you are going to depose. How? Army against army.
But it's been done before.
ECOMOG.
We've seen, yes. We've seen that in Liberia.
How did ECOMOG succeed? How long did ECOMOG fight? I was a young journalist covering the activities of ECOMOG. People ended up running to Bujumbura, which we still have as a camp. For how long how successful was ECOMOG? I mean, ECOMOG was good at the time. But they are doing a mini ECOMOG. But this one, there is a coup. It is not a war.
They were able to get Yahya Jammeh to accept that he had been voted out of office in the Gambia.
Did they use war?
Well, they deployed their men to the borders.
I am saying, did they use war?
Is this war they're going to embark on?
With Yahya Jammeh's own, there was an election, and he didn't want to refuse it. And they sent people. I remember they sent His Excellency John Dramani Mahama and some people, eminent people, to go there and speak to him. Have they sent eminent people to Niger? And why are they so much interested in Niger?
They need them.
Why they? Because they know that you people are the friends of the people who are the person who has done what we don't like. Maybe what the Niger government should do is to just hand over their former president to one of the ECOWAS countries, so that the person is free and a timetable is put in place for election.
But he needs to be released, and he's not. He's in detention.
That is what I am saying. That is the only thing. Because you see, these people were on the streets. Bellamy, I've lived through a coup. I've lived through a coup. I am a political daughter. If the people do not agree to a coup, it will not thrive. Especially in this modern. In those days, for instance, we had maybe one radio station. People were not enlightened. But the subjugation of France is what is getting to them. And that is what has to be addressed. If the ECOWAS want to help, they should go and meet France.
They should go and meet France instead.
Yes, they should go and meet France and losing some of the things that France does to the
French country.
Yes, the Francophone.
Is France willing to let go? That's the other.
Why wouldn't you let go? It's your country. I mean, I do not understand. Why wouldn't they let go? Let go for what? God created heaven and earth, and on this earth are nations. These nations have resources that God has given to us. If God didn't give resources to Europe as much as he gave to Africa, I don't see why Europe and the Americas should always want to take what is ours. Do you understand me? Yeah. Even if you want to take something minimal. When England, the UK, left the shores of Ghana, they didn't, for up to a point of 1963, we were taking things to them, our budget was going there and all that. But after we became a republic, it ceased. Now they are doing backdoor, like giving us low prices for our commodities, buying our commodities in the raw state and all that, because we ourselves are not ready to process. One district, one factory is not working. Those things are there, but it is not as clear as the assimilation of the French-speaking countries. So the first point is to tell France that, please, limit your hand on these French-speaking countries.
Okay. And
when that is done, you come to a negotiation. What are you going to give in? what are you going to take? Do you get me?
Okay.
So because they even believe that their presidents are brought in from France because France has a hand in choosing who they can work with. Do you understand? So these are the things that should be looked at. Because tomorrow, okay, let's assume that tomorrow you go and take the country through a civilian process and another coup comes. Will you go again? The teething problem, the fundamental, has not been dealt with, which has to be dealt with.
Okay.
The behavior of the presidents and also the assimilation of France, the hand of France. You see, the presidents, they should know that when you are in extra time, when somebody is past 70, you get to extra time.
When you're past 70, it's extra time.
It's extra time. 75 is maybe God has given you. You become tired. You become tired. So you need to be careful the way you do things. Because when a player plays a game and it goes into extra time, they get tired. And when you get tired, there are certain things that you do which are not good. So they should also look at themselves inward to see what they are doing that is not helping their countries.
I like that you brought this up. Speaking of which, let's take a look at what Kenna Retired Justice had to say about this matter in particular, because he was complaining about some of these leaders who formed the ECOWAS group, and the fact that they have found a way to re-engineer their constitution just so they can stay in power longer than usual. And these are the same people who are now calling for Niger to be restored to constitutional rule. How do you juxtapose the two when one person is clearly breaking the law but yet wants another country to stay within the confines of the law? Take a look. Festus, not justice.
"11 heads of state of ECOWAS, because the 4 are the members who have been, 4 countries are now under sanction. So out of 15, we are left with 11. Out of the 11, 4 of them are non-democrats. And we need to bear that in mind. One is Benin, whose leader re-engineered the constitution in order to entrench himself in power. The second is Togo. And Togo's case is very, very interesting. In 2005, when Eyadema passed away from heart attack, per the Togolese constitution at the time, it should have been the president of the Senate, like our parliament speaker, who should have become the new president. The high command of the Togolese armed forces installed Faure Nyasimbe as the president. Is that part of the democratic values that ECOWAS advances? Remember, this was in 2005. So Faure has been on the seat of power since 2005. Then in 2015, when it was time for him to leave, he re-engineered the constitution and then extended his stay in power. And he's still the president of Togo. Then go to Ivory Coast. Ouattara was at the center of the civil war, the one around which our late former president said, Zoufiasa. So Ouattara has been in power since 2011. When it was time for him to leave in 2020, he also re-engineered the constitution. Now he's going to serve another 2 terms, which take him to 2030. Then you go a couple of months ago in Senegal, Macky Sall was fighting with Abdoulaye Wade. You recall, all of us would recall. Macky Sall said, "Oh, I'm a Democrat. When I come to power, I'll serve my term, then I leave." Now Macky Sall comes, his term is over, or will be running out very soon. Then he says, "No, I'm also changing the constitution to start a new set of terms."
Kenna Retired Festus Abuaji, and he's talking about the hypocrisy, in quote, of some of the leaders of ECOWAS. And so if these are the ones who are making the decisions for us, then what rights do they have to ask Niger to restore back to democracy when they are even breaking the constitution? Gabriella?
That's a very good question. So taking it from where Nanaya ended up, because I agree with almost 90% of the things that she said. I qualify this group of ECOWAS leaders, this current group of ECOWAS leaders, as nothing short of a club of supposed big boys who use national interest to push their own personal interest and that of their foreign interest. The thing we're having in Niger is a very simple thing. The people have rejected the so-called democratically elected leader, Bazoum. ECOWAS, in its attempt to go and restore a democracy, I want ECOWAS to be specific on what exactly they are calling restoring a democracy. Is it to reinstate Bazoum?
That's what they're
because
asking.
Because you cannot reinstate Bazoum without plunging Niger into a civil war. If you look at how the Nigerian people are celebrating this coup, if you go and impose this gentleman again on them, there's going to be an uprising. And this is going to be a civilian uprising and not a military revolution. ECOWAS will be better served negotiating an exile agreement for Bazoum to leave Niger.
That is all.
And then talk to the junta to have a transitional government to restore democracy back to Niger. If you look at the sub-region, this is a general phenomenon across the entire globe, but specifically in our sub-region, where our people feel so deprived about democracy. They feel that democracy as has been sold to us has not been able to deliver on the promises that subsequent governments, if a prior government and subsequent governments are able to deliver. So it's just nothing short of just a bunch of talkers who only come and talk and talk and talk and talk and talk just to excite people, and then there's no show. The reason why these military regimes are becoming popular in our sub is because people feel that the military people are more of men of action than words. If you look at the popularity of Ahmed Touare in Burkina Faso now, they are referring to him as Thomas Sankara. But if you ask yourself, so what exactly has Touare done since he became a leader in the last, you can't really specify what exactly it is, but they still see him as a person of action.
But that's where the problem is. Because they're saying that they're not
only
doing
been there
much.
1 year. And he is there because his priority is to fight insurgents. But on the economic side, he's now trying to get a grip of that. And that's why he's even pushing and aligning himself to Russia. Because he no longer wants to deal with France. And the concomitant repercussions of having to deal with an imperial power such as France. France itself, their government, is unpopular in France. But staying in Niger and the sub-region, we have, Naya mentioned, we have Wagner in Burkina and Mali. Burkina and Mali and Chad have already pledged that if you declare war on Niger, accept that they are part of Niger's contingent. If you are going to start anything, if you are going to move troops to Niger, obviously Burkina border, Mali border is out. You now have Benin and Nigeria. The Nigeria Senate has already told Tinubu, go and negotiate through diplomacy. Because even in their own country, their systems cannot support a humanitarian exodus from Niger into Nigeria. And mind you, there's a lot of issue between Nigeria and Niger. Once upon a time, they were one country. It was the colonialists who decided to separate them. So they are not willing to even allow troops to pass. Same northern Nigeria. Is that not where you have Boko Haram and all these insurgents? You've not been able to fight them. So when you are moving your artillery to Niger, maybe ECOMOG or whatever troops they go and mobilize, when they decide to move, they should start cleaning from northern Nigeria before they enter Niger. But Bella, this is a very complex issue that ECOWAS leaders ought to tread carefully. It is obvious that the consensus is, across the sub-region, that none of these countries' citizens are interested in military confrontation. The people who are under these military regimes are happy to be under military regimes. Do not go and force a system they are not willing to take now. Because if you look at what is happening to the Francophone countries, there's a whole systematic shift within their structures. Because as Nanaya said, their apron strings are tied to France. The failure of France as a nation, replicates on them. As a sub-region, they are one of the poorest. The only thing that works for them is the stability of their currency because it is tied to the Central Bank of France. But when it comes to resources, mobilization, and management, and building their economies, they are like beggars to France. How can you expect that I should send you my reserves, and then when I need money to build my country, I should come and beg you for it, and then on top of that, you are adding interest payment on my money? But you are using my money to build your country. Is this a fair system? No. So ECOWAS should rather look at how they can get people to redesign and reframe Francophone Africa and put it to France that as a sub-region, we are calling for a change in how we negotiate with Europeans. This thing with Niger, during the Russia-Ukraine war, when Russia refused to send gas into Europe, Europe now had to come looking for gas to power Europe. They came to Nigeria to strike a deal. And so they are constructing the gas pipeline from Nigeria straight to, which goes through Niger. Niger is sitting there, 3/4 of Niger is dark, no electricity. But you, Nigeria, you have the resources to pass it through our country to go and power Europe. You are not thinking of how you should go, you are going to help us to power Niger. When this whole coup thing started,
Nigeria is in darkness.
When the whole coup thing started, Nigeria was so excited to go and turn off that quarter power they've been giving to Niger under the guise of so-called embargo or some nonsense like that. To show that there are some big words. I mean, the whole thing is just another thing, another creation of Western society with Western politicians to find another front to beef up their war enterprise. And if our ECOWAS leaders are going to allow themselves to be puppets, then whatever happens in our sub-region, they should understand that it is going to be on their heads. You were asking, when you were playing the video about Honorable Kennedy Japan, and how we have to show some machoism, that we're against these coups. And we have to use Niger as an example, because when there's a coup, the first to suffer is Parliament. Parliament is made up of politicians. Politicians make up government. If governments are unable to deliver, whose responsibility is it? It's not the politician. So if the politicians are failing, one group is failing to hold the other one to account. The other one is failing to deliver on good governance. And people say, we no longer want the two of you because both of you are useless to us. You want to show somebody machoism. You asked her some issues, and then let me give her examples. Contemporary times. 3 key issues. Last year, when the economy went into disarray, before we went to IMF, I was sitting here, and I said plain, Ken Ofori-Atta must go, because he has nothing to give us. His own parliamentarians said that he should go. They gave the Akufo-Addo ultimatum. 80-something of them. Supposedly on principle, that the man has outlived his welcome. Akufo-Addo says, let's wait till after IMF negotiations. We have finished IMF negotiations. In fact, your so-called IMF negotiations, it even came out that we have run a debt of 60 billion on the central bank. And you call this competence. And he's still sitting there as finance minister. NDC is saying that Governor Anderson should resign. Why should Anderson resign and Ken Ofori-Atta still sitting there? Who plunged us here? Who was going to Eurobond every year to go and take 40 million because his company was benefiting? He is laughing all the way to the bank while we have been impoverished. 850,000 of our fellow compatriots have been pushed into poverty because of this man's so-called economic management. As a government, did you come to power to come and maximize welfare of people, or you came to run us down? Did you come to build our society, or you came to make sure that you come to impoverish people, push them into hardship, do whatever you like? I'll give you another example. Yesterday or 2 days ago, Foreign Affairs Minister went with media, passport office. Some sensational thing she went to do there. The people are outsiders. The Guru boys, there are people inside. We are doing investigation. Listen very carefully. We are doing investigations. Names have come up. There and then, or the cat was let out of the bag. The names that has come up, she's already told them that your names have come up. And then she adds, from Monday, don't come to work. That is your warning. Then the annoying thing that she adds to it, she comes and says, those people who have been mentioned, no, go. Where are they going? Back into the public service to go and continue the stealing. Who caused the problems at the passport office? You come and tell me that you use digitization to solve a problem. But if you deny simple things as passport booklets, and they don't have passport booklets to print passports, are you not going to create a backlog? If I'm somebody who travels a lot, and I'm constantly utilizing passports, and I must get a passport within 2 weeks, and I'm willing to pay premium for that service, but that passport is taking me a year to acquire, because of what I'm going to lose, will I not be willing to pay 2,000 cedis so I can go and move around and get something more than that 2,000 for my travels? So you've created a racketeer system. And then you come and stand on TV, some sensational thing, and come and tell us, and the girl boys are outsiders, and what? If people are capitalizing on the weakness of the structures you have created, and man, you just said right now they are printing a passport from November 2022. We are in August 2023. So the students who wanted to go to school March, April, May, don't have passports to go to school. The business people don't have their passports.
Unless you pay that 2,000.
Unless you pay that 2,000, which you have created. And then let me land on her.
Okay.
Then you come and tell me.
Land on me.
You see, is your name foreign minister? You see, then you create this impression that you are solving. You are not solving anything. In fact, you even worsen the thing for Akufo-Addo. If I was president, the very minute I saw you on air granting that interview, I would have fired you.
The president should have fired
Your job is supposed to fix the problem. That is why we have a democracy. We are not a democracy to come and be voting and talking. No. We are a democracy to fix problems for people. People need to see changes in their lives. People want to see that there's efficient service delivery in public service. If people have seen a lacuna and are milking it, your job is to block it. Those who are doing this, there's a public service code. You're supposed to fire them. You sack them. You don't tell them, don't come here.
And if you don't fire them, you leave people unhappy. You leave people unhappy. And there have been comments, even though we condemn them in every sense of the word, there have been comments that what is happening in Niger, what's happened in Guinea and Mali and Burkina Faso, if we don't fix the problem here, we're likely to face the same kind of thing. But every time this comment is made, it looks as if, and we heard from Lerato this morning, she says that you can criticize governments, but don't criticize them with their hands tied to their backs. Give them room.
How is your hand
Give them room to improve upon the situation.
Please. You went and said you created a so-called digitized system that is supposed to bring efficiency and cut out corruption. You failed to give contracts for printing of booklets. In fact, as it stands right now, you have so many passport offices across the country. Some of them don't have the pressure of Accra. Can't you share the Accra data to your offices to print and bring to Accra for distribution? Can't you find a private printer who can print these things to clear the backlog, or short-term contract to clear the backlog, so people get access to their passports? If you don't fix a system and you come and stand and sensationally come and bring media people to come and make noise, I'm a communication officer. I can equally organize media and create any situation I want in this country, but that does not fix the problem.
Okay. Larissa, what is Ghana's national interest in all of this?
What is Ghana's
Because we need to have a
interest?
national interest.
What is our national interest? At the end of the day, whatever every government that comes in power seeks to do, it's like fundamentally the well-being of
What
citizens.
is our national interest if we decide to also deploy military to Niger?
Oh, you're still
That's
on
what I'm
that.
asking
I thought you were going on the tangent that
It's all part
Gabriela
of it.
went
We're talking about
as
the
a
coup.
regional communications officer. You expect her to do this. Nothing that, and I always say it, and I've said it to her a number of times. The fact that you're in opposition, and if until recently you were not, if not for they watching and learning from us, they shouldn't have been called the communications officer. They should have been a propaganda secretary.
They learned
it hasn't
from who?
changed. Fundamentally, they learn from the NPP, they learn from the best.
The NPP?
Fundamentally, look. Fundamentally, look.
Well, if you look at the Facebook stream, the comments are in favor of Gabi and the statements that she's making.
That's fine.
So clearly, they seem to be happy with what she's saying.
If you want to judge what is happening in Ghana by Facebook,
but these are viewers as well.
It's fair. They are entitled to their opinion.
Okay.
Right. Whatever any Ghanaian says, that's the opinion.
So if
Let's
I want
keep
a
Gabriela,
and
let
I'm
me go
paying
on.
bribe to get a meter,
Gabriela, please allow
propaganda.
At least there's a digital system to ease it. And she can't sit down here and
How
say...
is it easing it?
She can't sit down here and say that the digital system hasn't eased acquisition of... I'm talking about issues that... What about the coup?
I was just asking what the national agenda is and the interest.
Have you seen any statement from the president or anybody on our position in
about their meeting?
Their meeting. Is the meeting done?
Ghana.
The meeting is today and tomorrow. Have they come out with any communique?
But
no.
So should we not listen to citizens
this is what
and factor that into whatever meeting may be taking place?
This is what, but I said that in my opening remarks before they came. I mean, with Gabi as late as usual. I said it.
No, she was in traffic.
I referred to the reportage on your network on how people in Niger are endorsing and all that.
Yeah.
I don't think anybody in their right sense of mind will endorse coup. Right? The approach you use to solve the issue is what we are looking at. ECOWAS heads of state met in Abuja, came out with a communique. Sending troops is one of the options they outlined, right? I don't think, right, as an individual, and this is talking as an individual, which I'm actually not supposed to do, don't think that taking troops either. But I don't think that with the meeting that they are going to have, I don't think they are having that meeting just to say we are going. This meeting is to have a holistic plan to how to approach the whole issue.
But what would be Ghana's interest in this?
What would be Ghana's
We need
interest?
to have a national interest, which is what I keep asking you.
At the end of the day, Ghana's interest, even before whatever statement will be issued by His Excellency the President on Piavo.
Bear in mind that we've not been able to resolve the Boko crisis.
Whatever interest, even before a statement on the position of Ghana is released to citizens, is at the end of the day enhancing democracy and the well-being of citizens within the sub-region and within the continent and within our country. What I don't think we should be encouraging is people thinking that coups are the way out. Coups will never be the way out. Coups can never be the way out. We've seen Burkina, we've seen Mali, we've seen Gambia, we've seen other places in this country.
But when
coups
citizens
will never
are
be
in favor
a
of
way
it, what
out.
does it mean?
Come again?
When citizens are in favor
But
of it, because we've heard a Nigerian say that about 90% of the Nigerians are in favor.
You don't think they will want to go back to constitutional rule? You don't think so?
Well, I'm sure they would, but it depends on who leads.
They may be in favor of the approach of ousting the current president, but I don't think they want to stay in the conditions that they are in now with all that is happening. The security chiefs are meeting today and tomorrow. Let's all go. Experts have shared their opinions. I don't think these people are living in islands. They talk to people. They have advisors.
What do you think would be the other way? Because Nanaya has said that maybe ECOWAS should negotiate with France, rather, and find a way to relieve these Francophone countries from the grips of France. At least that is another way.
I think that's getting into
what do you think?
I think that's getting into the purview of AU. Don't you think so?
You don't think that you should share an opinion on it?
Come again?
You don't think you should share an opinion? What do you think? Because clearly Ghanaians are saying we don't think deploying troops is the way to go.
Like, I was just thinking about it. Sometime back, I think Nigeria tried something similar. It didn't work. Even Ghana, when President Kufuor raised the extension of the tenure, there was great opposition to it. With what is being said, it's like these things are more rife in the Francophone speaking, and I allude to that. But is the way out just throwing opinions in the air? I think the way out is broader consultation thinking. So if ECOWAS thinks, and from what security chiefs pick up from all the things that, because there's some information, as we sit here, His Excellency the President, we are talking in Ghana, maybe preview to security briefings, you and I are. And it changes these days, it changes by the second. We've seen all these terrorist attacks, all these jihadist attacks and all that across our borders. So when it comes to these things, we need to be measured in the way we push some of these things. There are a lot of issues that are going on, but let the people who get the right information deal with it. That doesn't debar anybody from stating their opinion or their expert advice on it. Kenel did that nicely. He addressed the issues and all that. But you see, if you go attacking persons of individuals who are supposed to take a decision, it also doesn't augur well. He's giving it expert advice. This is what he thinks based on the happenings over the years, and this is what he recommends. That is the way forward. I don't think the ECOWAS chiefs don't go. Definitely, as a retired colonel, he has colleagues.
Okay.
He'll be talking to them too. So when it comes to these things, let's also let cool heads prevail and all that. But I will repeat it. Coups in any shape or form is not something anybody should be excited about.
100.
And it's not something that anybody should think that if democracy is not fair. Democracy may come with its own issues and its own challenges, but I don't think coups. And Ghana, as we said, let's also protect our. We may have our disagreements. We may have our opinions. Right?
What makes life easier for the citizens. Why not?
That is the
and that's what I asked you earlier. That
yes.
Are we really looking out for the citizens of the country when we rule?
Look, policies may be taken with intentions, with projected outcomes. They may not end up the way they are. That doesn't mean the policy was bad.
Okay.
That is why you keep reviewing things and doing them better.
Well, there's 10% tax on betting.
Yes, 10% tax on betting.
Nana, I'll let you come in briefly. I just want to hear. Yeah, just very brief. This is just about 30 seconds. Lerato, Ghanaians say they don't want the 10% tax on betting.
Which Ghanaians said they don't want it?
Ghanaian youth say they don't want it.
How? When?
When you say how, when? Have you not watched the news? You've not listened to commentary?
Over the years, we've had everything conceivable taxed. Over the years, one of the major sources of